So I'm at that point you get to in every project where you've done absolutely everything you can think of and procrastinated as much as you possibly can, and now there's just kind of nothing left to do but sand. So I'm gonna throw the headphones on and put on some podcasts and just go to town. That was a lot of sanding. Pretty much 2 nights of sanding actually, and I'm still not done. But I'm not a sadist, so I didn't make you watch all of that. After looking at the camera, I realized that it really doesn't look all that different than it did before I started, but it definitely feels a lot different. Since I didn't really start with that great of a surface on here, I ended up with some pretty bad plane tracks, especially in this far corner. So I did have to work pretty hard to get all those tracks out, but now it's feeling good. The whole thing is sanded up to 80 grit. And I figured now that it's a relatively smooth surface, this is the time to go ahead and take care of replacing these triangles. So yeah, that's what I'm set up for here. I've already marked out the lines. In my testing, I made this little mock one. And because of the tolerance wasn't so great, I'm trying to kind of cover up all those really thick glue lines around the border of the triangles. So the one that I made is about 1.5 inches longer and a little bit wider. Here's my 2 blanks. I wish I would have cut a little bit more, but at the time that I was making these, I was thinking I was only gonna just repair the one. So I have enough here. I think I could probably squeeze 8 out of here, and they won't be that thick, but they don't really need to be. I've got 7 to do, so hopefully I don't screw any of these up. I need to get these oversized blanks cut down to the actual size, and that's going to be a little bit tricky, but I don't know. I got to make it happen, make sure that I can get this into this shape before I start cutting things with the template that's based around this. So first I'm going to do that.
Here I'm just getting the router table set up, and you can see I'm just using the CA glue and tape trick to attach the template to the blank. And I thought I was going to have an awesome overhead shot of getting these cut down to size, but as you can see, the zoom is just all over the place. So unfortunately, none of these shots were really usable. You can actually see it on camera right there, but it wasn't until right about here that I realized it was actually my watch that was messing the camera up the whole time.
Why is it zooming in? Stop. You better not be zooming while I'm standing here. All right, yesterday I got all these cut, but I never came out to the shop after dinner, so this is where I am now. Got 8 of these cut, 7 of them to replace. I guess I never really specifically said that, but I did decide all of them need replaced because these aren't exactly the same size as the existing ones. They're a little bit longer, and that's actually something that I almost forgot to account for. When I was laying these out, if I put them end to end, then I'm well into this border piece. So I've got a registration mark on my template here. The longer one originally is in line with the back of this, and that's what I was supposed to be lining up with these, but I just made a new one. We'll go ahead and back everything off about 1/2 inch. Luckily, these are oversized enough that that actually doesn't matter, and they'll still look fine. So they'll sit somewhere about like that. The only 2 that are going to give me a little bit of a problem is this one and that one, and that's just because it's in a little bit too far this way and this way that I can't get a good clamp on it. So for those 2, I'm going to have to figure out something different. I'll probably end up doing the super glue and tape trick probably. I do have a couple of long reach clamps, but they're junks, and I don't know if I want to dig them out because I know they don't really work that well. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get this guy clamped up and get started on the first one. Well, I'm really surprised to see that there's still some walnut in the bottom of that. Apparently they're varying degrees of thickness. Yeah, look at that. Wonder how much deeper that goes. Pretty weird, especially compared to the other two that barely have a shaving left of them, you know? Okay, I lied. I did go ahead and dig out the only two deep reach or long reach clamps that I have. These are just crappy Harbor Freight things that I have had for years. Usually I hate using them because you just never feel like you're getting much clamp out of them, because as you tighten this, the whole clamp just gets wider and wider and wider, and so it's like the steel is giving rather than it really putting a lot of clamping pressure. But for this for this purpose, it should be enough. It's enough to keep this from moving around. So we'll go ahead and use this setup for this one and that last one, and then I can get them installed. I did go ahead and throw just a little bit of a chamfer on the insides of all of these, just to help them, slip in a little bit easier and fully seat down on the bottom of that pocket. I probably could have matched those depths a little bit better, just so I'd have less to, less to remove after the fact, but that's just a little bit more work. It's not going to actually hurt anything. I actually do have a different video using this exact same technique. I'll link to it somewhere up here. Using the same technique to repair cutting boards. So if that's something that interests you, you could go over and check that one out too if you want. Yep, starting to get just a tiny bit of maple on those. It's close enough for me. All right, I'm gonna move the camera and get the rest of these. Okay, another little update. I did have a little bit of a last minute design change that you may or may not have noticed yet. I actually went ahead and inlaid 3 more triangles right here. You might remember there was a couple of nasty knots, one right here and one right here. And I just, I tried filling them with some darker filler. It wasn't a great match. And it was just really an eyesore, especially since it was this far up into, kind of inside of this triangle. If it would have been down near the other end, I might not have messed with it, but it was just really distracting. I wanted it to be sort of subtle but interesting, I guess. I've had like one chunk of really super figured bird's eye maple that I've had kicking around for a few years now. So I went ahead and cut some triangles out of that and put it in. And it's perfect. From far away, it kind of just blends in. You don't even notice it. It's the right species and the right tone. But once you're up on it, it's, something interesting to look at, and a little bit different. So I took care of that yesterday and this morning. So at this point, the table is sanded all the way up to 220 as recommended for the finish that I'm going to use, which is Total Boat Halcyon Clear. And then I think I'm going to go through, wet the whole thing down to raise the grain and sand it up to 220 one more time. Before I do that, I'm going to throw a round over on all the corners, and then it should be ready for finish. Definitely doesn't feel like glass anymore. I haven't seen this side of the table in a while. We're skipping ahead just a little bit, but it's mostly just been a lot more finish prep up to this point. I did a lot more sanding on the top, one more light round of filler just from a couple of spots that I found after I had sanded the first initial round. And then yesterday, a buddy of mine came over and helped me get this guy flipped over. I still had a little bit of sanding to do just pretty much on the bottom sides of these border pieces. So I went ahead and covered up the bars just because I don't want to get finish on them. And now I'm going to go ahead and get the first clear coat on here. For this round, I think I'm deliberately going to avoid getting the sides if I can. I can get the sides when I'm doing the top. That way, if I do end up with any drips on the vertical faces, then it'll be on the bottom side instead of the top, so that after I fix it, it'll be less noticeable. All right. Well, it's later the same day. My buddy came over and helped me flip this guy over one more time, hopefully for the last time. I did go ahead and throw a second coat on the bottom. It's dry to the touch now, but obviously not completely cured. So there's actually some standoffs under here, just some 2x4s. The steel on the bottom is just proud enough by about 1/4 inch that those standoffs are working perfectly. All the weight is supported on those. So nothing's actually touching the finish under there, so it can cure up how it needs to. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get the first coat put on the top and hopefully be able to get 2 or 3 on tonight.
So I ended up putting on 3 coats of the clear gloss, but obviously only the first coat is any fun to actually watch go on. After that cured up, I gave it a light sanding and then put on 1 top coat of the clear satin just to knock back the sheen just a little bit. We just didn't want to be, blinded by it from across the room. So the goal was to have this table done by Christmas. I really cut it down to the wire and got it in the house on December 23rd. But because I was cutting it so close, I didn't really get any shots of us moving it into the house or installing the legs. But, I mean, you don't really need to see a bunch of grown men struggle with a 500-pound table. And the legs were just screwed on with some lag bolts, so you're really not missing anything. This was a project that I wanted to do for a long time, so I'm really glad that I finally got the chance, and we just really, really love how it came out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.